Thank you so much for taking a minute after the program
It's a
today.
pleasure to be
Appreciate
here.
it.
Yeah. Thank
So,
you, Joe.
you bet. So let's begin our journey with this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing so much about our world. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you work and live today?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think so much changed um, because my work is very much like somatically in the room with people, working with the nervous system, working with that kind of sense of being with the body, being with the breath, being with the connection with the body. And of course, in the last 6 years, so much has changed. So it's been moved towards, I'm doing working definitely a lot more online. But what I've noticed is uh, an interesting change in people's nervous systems. And actually, what I've also noticed is a incredible like overwhelm and speeding up of just a general speeding up of information coming at people. And that then affecting the way that they feel about themselves, the way that they feel in their bodies, and the way that they then respond and reciprocate with life and their relationship with life. So yeah. I mean, there's much more I could say, but let's see where
Yeah.
that goes.
Well, and I know just with AI and with the amount of social media and just having access to everything all at once. I mean, I just remember growing up, and I don't want to sound like the old guy in the room, but like, you didn't have 50 different types of mustards to choose from. You didn't have
Sure.
this plethora of things that you had to go through and all of this noise, especially in America, as you know. We're just creating unbelievable amounts of noise right now. So all of us are just getting bombarded by the daily grind of going through what we're watching, the
Absolutely.
clownery coming out of Washington. It's epic. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can totally see. And I think too, maybe a little bit, coming out of the pandemic, I think it refined the way that all of us, especially us that are older, want to live the rest of our lives. It was almost like a
Mm.
proverbial Ralph Waldo Emerson fork in the road.
Yeah. It's interesting actually in my field of work, like in the world of relationships and sexuality, there's a kind of what I would call like a light and shadow aspects coming up because again with the increase of sort of the use of the internet, the AI, and people getting more familiar with it, I've noticed more and more that people are going towards AI as a kind of companionship. People who feel a bit isolated, going into more of these kind of using these different forms of AI to meet their sort of bit more of their emotional needs. And the way that technology pulls us away from that actually being with someone and going through those awkward awkward communication, the actual human to human interaction, the flow of navigating communication issues, repairing ruptures. I've just really noticed that people leaning into AI as more of a companionships and this gap rising between actual the ability to be able to face those much more human narratives in relationships. So I always have a bit of a fear or worry about the way those things are going and the way that I don't know, all of this information is kind of shaping misinformation about relationships and how sexuality is actually in reality. So I think that's increased definitely that I've noticed because I've been in the field of sexuality for the last 16 years
Okay.
and just watching the changes of
Yep.
relationship dynamics has been fascinating. Yeah.
S- So what I want to do is I want to put you in front of, I usually say 12 or 13-year olds, but I think probably middle school, maybe on the cusp of sex ed class. If you were to get in front of a bunch of middle schoolers at career day and they
Yeah.
wanted to know what you do for a living, how do you synthesize what you do to make sense to their brains?
So I support people to understand how they can communicate in a healthy way in relationships, how to communicate their boundaries, how to even know what they want, how to come into intimate and sexual relationships in a healthy way, in a way that they feel respected and honored. Um, Teaching the nuances of what the complexity of relationship dynamics as well. Some of what gets in the way of what gets in the way of actually enjoying relating with another person, what gets in the way of pleasure, how to be in pleasure actually. And again, if we were focusing talking to that world of teenagers, of course they're interested. Of course they want to be experiencing pleasure and connection. And I think the issue there is that um, there's a lot being shared about, don't do this, it's, this scary, there's just a whole huge lack of education. So I guess it's about an education of how to enjoy relationships,
Yeah.
how to do them well, how to have fun, how to enjoy your body in a really healthy, respectful, and fun way, how to explore actually sexuality in a good way.
That makes sense because that's it's like one of the most important things that we're going to do in our lives is have relationships, possibly procreate and maintain those relationships. And humans are so bad at it. We get to that
Yeah.
crossroads. A lot of us are. And it's almost like entrepreneurship. It's not a bad thing, but we have to learn how to do it correctly. We have to learn how
Yeah.
to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and it's interesting whether we choose to be in it's like everybody gets involved in sexuality. Right, either where even when we choose not to have sex, there's still a choice. We're making a choice. So it's coming into our awareness. Any human, it's going to come into our awareness at some point, and how we're going to choose to be in the world of sexuality. Um, and again, there's just in the work that I've done, I do feel real heartbreak that it isn't taught in in those fundamental years of the understanding of how do we feel in our body, um, what a boundary is, not from our mind but actually from our body. What is a yes and no feeling in our body? When are we feeling a pleasurable yes? When is it a yes? When is it a no? What does readiness mean? And what um I've got so many things to say about it. My brain's going so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just love this field. And I think one of the things I look back in my own teenage years is like, why was I not taught how to be relational? Why are we not taught how to be relational? Not just physically, but emotionally, because a big part of physical intimacy is the emotional piece. How do we not know how to communicate our emotions, to feel our emotions, to express them? That they're such an important part of our journey of life, actually. So I always see sexuality as such a broad umbrella of communication.
For sure. So
Yeah.
let's get to how we got here. When you were that
Mm.
age at career day, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
I actually wanted to be a dancer, like on one of those music videos, like in a dance troupe. Um, uh, and then I mean, I did dance, but I didn't end up doing that. I actually ended up leaving home at 16, and I ended up on a journey of going down a sort of spiritual route, shall we say, and ending up in an ashram and a community and going down a meditation route. So in my 20s, I was in India meditating, exploring the sort of mysteries of who am I? What's the universe? Who is this? Who are we? What are we made of? What are the kind of energetic principles of life? And I think that stemmed from a huge curiosity of why do we do what we do? What makes us all tick? Why do people behave the way we behave? And so I very much just had a fascination in people and relationship and relating. And so that's where I kind of ended up in my 20s.
Which is a wonderful time because I remember my 20s as well. That there's got to be a part of your life where you explore all of the myriad of possibilities with that wander and wonder and figure out why we do what we do. Because there's
Yeah.
so much noise coming in, especially now, like we said with technology and AI and all these things. But I think in general, sometimes we hit midlife and we've been so buried by all of this level of sentiment that is either willingly or unwillingly added on top of our ego and id and superego, that we have to get rid of it all and become who we
Mm,
are and know why we want to do, which is why you say, you know, human sexuality is a massive umbrella because one way or
yeah.
another, it's just even the permeations of what we see. Like, you know, it's always violence is okay to show on TV and movies, but nudity or,
Mm,
you know, one Janet Jackson moment at the Super Bowl gets everybody into a panic. It's like, what are we doing? How
yes.
backwards do we have to be?
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree. I feel heartbroken that um we hold so much shame about our bodies. And I think a big part of that is the way that media, social media, the way that it's depicted, and the pressure. It's kind of like the pressures of should. We should be like this or should be like that, or we've got all these shoulds of how we should be to be loved or to be desired. And in that, I I mean, I work so much with people's shame about how they feel in their body. And of course, when we feel shame about our body, we can start to disassociate and create numbness. And so then when we go into a field of pleasure, we're actually not feeling anything in our body. We're one so many people I work with are like, I don't feel anything. Nothing's happening. I'm with someone I love. I finally met somebody. My body's just not responding. And a big part of it is this the layers of which I would call armoring, the layers of internalized shoulds that create shame, that then create a disassociation from our physicality and our ability to express. So yeah, it's there's definitely, and I'm not saying there is also another vein where there is a lot of more sex positivity coming into the world as well. I think there are lots of different threads going on in society, and there are people also challenging those narratives too, for sure.
For sure. So, who's been
Mm.
your inspiration? Who's been kind of a heroic force in your life that's allowed you to find your place and to
Mm.
figure all of this out?
Gosh. I guess on a interestingly when you say that, I on a kind of professional level, I really admire people like Esther Perel, who's again in the field of sexuality, bringing a lot of uh, positive narratives about um, how to be in relationship and sort of challenging those narratives. Um, I think actually on a sort of personal level, I quite get inspired by more like archetypes, like the archetypal, a bit, I guess, a bit like some of the Marvel heroes, you know, that kind of archetypal, like doing things for good, that sort of justice bringing, those kind of positive, supporting, caring for people, that kind of energy, bringing a like fiery maybe a bit like a in the Hinduism, a bit Kali-esque, sort of Kali, that fiery archetypal energy of change of like, let's do something different here. So I guess it's more archetypal than people on a personal level for sure.
So, you
Yeah.
know, getting into this field, you're dealing with a lot of human emotions. So
Yeah.
you have to protect yourself. You have to keep your sense of self. What is that energy every day for you to wake up, to keep your bubble about you, but to get into other people's worlds and change their lives? All of this
Mm.
holistically. What is that energy for you every day to do this at a high level?
Yeah, because you know, as you can probably get gather, like working in the field of sexuality is like there's a lot of trauma. And having worked with quite extreme sexual trauma, or a whole variety of sexual trauma, it's been a really interesting theme for me because I think one of the key things is to stay centered. And so for me, I actually, when I wake up, the first things that I do in my morning practice are all around different forms of meditation to have that sense of my own center, where that might be within my pelvis, my heart, my mind. And so I do a lot of practices that are from the Taoist culture, which are all to do with energetic building, building of energy in my body, in my core of my body. It's a bit of what a lot of people do in martial arts to build their chi, which is like the building of energy in the body. So I do a lot of that kind of work. And then at the same time, I've journeyed so much with my own emotions. And again, I think if I'm in a really healthy relationship with my own anger and my own disgust and my own judgment, the more that I understand that relationship inside myself, the more I'm able to sit with another in their own anger, in their own disgust, in their own judgment. And so, alongside the journey that I do with others, there's always a continuing relationship with the parts inside myself and my emotional body and the parts inside my own psyche. And again, like I was saying, being fascinated by the relationships on the outside, I'm also fascinated by my internal makeup, what makes me tick, what makes my, and I think that helps me stay centered when, especially when listening to very heartbreaking stories of what some people have been through. So yeah.
So I'm curious, people come to you for for advice. They come to you to get better. They come to you to feel better about their relationships, their intimacy. And but it has to be a two-way avenue. You have to be learning from your clients just as much as they learn from you. Do you still find yourself having revelatory moments, things that just wake you up that you didn't realize? What's that two-way journey like for you?
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like the two-way journey is it's like being in the most such a privileged and humbling experience when somebody tells you a story, an experience that they've never told anyone else, and they are in their extreme vulnerability. It is like such an honor. I feel like I carry a basket in front of me of precious stories of people's secret worlds often of shame and often of maybe even desires and fantasies that they'd like to experience but have a level of shame or judgment, and to be able to sit in that space with curiosity and not judgment. I feel like I'm a richer person because I've had such a rich touch of humanity. And it's interesting. I'm just feeling it as you asked me the question. It's um, the word honor is just such a, and so I grow. And actually, I feel that over the years, I become less and less and less and less judgmental about anything. Because as a human being, we are so complex and layered, and the reasons why we respond in any particular emotion or any particular way is actually very complex of why we do what we do. And so I can have discernment, I can see things for what they are, and less judgment about why people behave in the way that they do, because there are often a huge amount of backstories and complex narratives that make us behave in certain ways. So, yeah, I have received many gifts from my journey for sure.
I think the only thing that's going to truly save humanity is empathy. If we could all find a way to be able to be okay with the fact that this is really difficult to do, it being a human being. There's a podcast I was listening to for a while, and it was called The Secrets Hotline. And it was
Mm.
one of those things where this podcast put out a phone number and you can call up and you could tell whatever secret you had.
Oh,
Just
amazing.
get it out. So you could just feel the weight of these people. And I'm thinking about what you're doing. Not only are they getting out this very buried veil of their holy grail, but
Yeah,
you're in a position to help them find more joy than just getting it out. They're going to be
yeah,
able to find that Maslow peak that they're looking for to fully feel. That has to be amazing. And it has to, for you, you have to feel so connected to humanity. Like this is like the calling. It has to be a
yeah,
reaffirmation every day that this is your calling in life.
yeah. I definitely, and there's been phases where, for example, there was a phase where I was working a lot with a lot of clients with very intense sort of sexual abuse journeys, and all at once. And I remember sort of coming home one day saying to my partner, "Oh, I feel, when there's my own spark kind of fighting those dark narratives that are going on in the world and going, God, I'm starting to feel like I don't like humans, like, like, and, those are the times when I dig deep and find my beautiful passion for my desire to live in a world where we are conscious in the way we relate, and the empathic world and the loving world. And yeah, that place, like you say, like it's hard to be human. Let's give each other some spaciousness to, but also the power of being present with each other, the power of not judging each other, but asking really good questions, giving each other the space to be heard and seen. I have seen such transformation just by being in that present state and someone being heard and seen without judgment.
It's
And
huge.
such a transformation happens inside their own system. So yeah, I agree. I think empathy is what we need. And
Yeah,
curiosity, actually.
sure.
Be
Yeah.
curious in each other. Be curious. We're
Mhm.
also different. Be curious. I think we get a bit rigid.
We do. So let me ask you this. If you had a
Mm.
dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you walked into a room and there was a film projector, and you clicked play, and there was a 60-second highlight reel of the life you've lived, would that young version of you believe your life turned out this way?
No. No, definitely not. Um I don't know what my 18-year-old self was. Um I was actually pregnant when I was 18, so I had my son when I was 19. Um and I think probably at that phase I was probably thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be such a bad mother. And actually, I really loved it, and I really enjoyed being a mother. And I'd like to. I'm pretty sure my son said to me that well, I know he says that he's really loved our journey together and me as his mother. So, um, but also all the other things. So no, I would have this absolute amazing gift of meeting amazing people in my work life, but also in my personal life, having just in organic moments, created moments, I have had the privilege of meeting such amazing people, and that has really enriched my life for sure. Yeah.
So let's get to the truth of your soul here. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show for you. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah. Not been asked that question before. Do I think I am? How I would describe myself um, is somebody that's fascinated, somebody that loves the intricate subtleties of life. I feel, yes, I'm a bit wild and I love the esoteric. I love the mystery. I'm love kind of flying through those places of unreality that who knows, maybe they're real, maybe they're not, but it's fascinating. I love the relational, scientific. Um, I'm an adventurer. That's what I would say. I'm an adventurer on the inner planes and the outer planes, an adventurer of relational habits, I guess. And I guess I'm a weaver of stories. I see myself as somebody that uses curiosity and fascination to bring permission to explore myself and permission to explore for others to explore who they want to be. So yeah,
I love it.
it's nice.
So
It's nice to say it out loud.
yeah. So let me ask you this. As an adventurous soul, a curious soul, if you could get into a time machine and go back in the annals of human history and see one event with your own eyes, what would you love to have witnessed with your own
Oh,
eyes?
gosh, what would I love to witness? I mean, the first thing that's coming to mind um, is around the Egyptian culture, something around like what was going on in that Egyptian culture with the pyramids and I guess the esoteric arts of the Egyptian culture. There's a
Yeah.
fascination for me of like, what were they doing? What were they doing in that ritualistic, not just on a physical level, but what were they doing in the
Huh?
possible magic of that
Yeah.
time? Or maybe not magic. Maybe it was very, very engineering and practical, but I'd love to understand a bit of what that was. So that was the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. So if anybody wants to take the next step to find some healing, to get your wisdom, where's the best place to go to hire you to get into this world?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So my name's Kalindi Jordan, and that's the name of my website. So it's kalindijordan.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, and so just yeah, if you look Kalindi Jordan, sex and intimacy coach, it should come up. And I'm based in the UK, and I work online and I work in person. So
Excellent. I will put all these links in the show notes. I will make it easy. Kalindi, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your story. Thank you
thank
for
you.
taking that out. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's been enjoyable to share with you.
Absolutely.